Okay, Unit 1, Lecture 2B, we just were discussing Georgia, so I want to go into some commonalities having to do with the South, some things they all share. All right, so, and one of these is a growth of a plantation-based agricultural economy, and in the hot, humid lowlands, coastal lowlands of the southern colonies, it requires cheap labor, and it's very labor-intensive, so a lot of cheap labor, large-scale cheap labor. So some of the labor needs, especially those in Virginia and early Maryland, were met by indentured servants. All right, servants who these are poor people from England, Ireland, Scotland, who agreed to work on plantations for a period of time, either 5 to 7, somewhere between 5 and 7 years, in return for their passage from Europe and or relief from debts. And at the end of this 5 to 7 year contract, they would receive 50 acres of land. All right, something to keep in mind. And I hope we expand on class all of this, but most indentured servants won't survive to see the end of their terms. All right, you're going to have a huge mortality rate in early Virginia and Maryland. All right, so most plantation labor needs are eventually going to come to be filled by the forcible importation of Africans. All right, slavery, because that's a permanent or semi-permanent response to the needs. All right, so initially some Africans may have worked as indentured servants and earned their freedom during the colonial era. This is going to be a very small number, all right, and always smaller in the South than North, okay, because eventually laws are going to be created in Maryland and Virginia that made slavery a condition of race, all right, made it permanent and hereditary, all right. So it's here in the New World that slavery becomes a racial issue, okay? And more Africans over time are going to be forced from their homes in Africa and brought to the southern colonies, which is going to be the middle passage from Africa to the New World, part of triangular trade. You need to be aware of that. Triangular trade, 3 points, Old World, New World, Africa. Middle passage, the horrific voyage of slaves from Africa to the New World, okay? So the development of the slavery-based economy in the southern colonies is eventually going to lead to the conflict between North and South, the Civil War, which we'll discuss much later. All right, so some more common characteristics in the South. Remember, social status is going to be based on family status, how long your family has been here and their social standing, along with the amount of property you own, their wealth, okay? These wealthy planters, large landholders in the eastern lowlands of the southern colonies, are going to dominate colonial government. Remember, the South develops representative democracy because they're all spread out on large farms. Only the wealthy have the time, leisure time, the ability to participate in democracy, to act as representatives for the rest. In the mountains and valleys further inland, in the southern colonies, society is going to be characterized by small subsistence farmers, just growing enough for your family, hunters and traders of Scots, Irish, and English descent. The southern colonies then are going to develop economies in the eastern lowlands based on large plantations that grow cash crops, such as tobacco, rice, and indigo for export to Europe. And you have the other side of the Appalachians here, farmers, hunters, and traders. Remember that difference, that the Appalachians act as a border, separates society and wealth. And we're going to see in all of the southern colonies the development of a strong belief in private ownership and free enterprise, okay? Not just the South. I should say that's going to be something the SOLs will characterize as all 3 colonial regions. Okay, that's the end of lecture, or Unit 1, Lecture 2.